The hermit found a frozen girl in the forest and brought her home to warm up. He left her with his disabled mother, and when he returned from work, he was stunned. But before we continue, let us know in the comments, where are you watching this story from? Now take a breath and let the story begin. Snow crunched beneath the tires of an old Chevy as Alex drove down the icy road that carved through the quiet village of Silver Pine Hollow. Winter had been brutal this year, bitter cold that pierced to the bone, winds that screamed through the skeletal trees. But Alex, a 35-year-old lumber mill worker, had grown used to such nights. He welcomed the silence, the white stillness. Only his headlights lit the dark silhouettes of trees swaying in the wind. Solitude had become his way of life, days spent between the mill and caring for his disabled mother, Ruth. A woman hardened by pain and years of bitterness. He didn't complain. It was all he knew. Then, something orange flickered in his headlights, half buried in a snowdrift. Trash, he thought, but curiosity tugged at him. He turned off the engine and stepped into the cold. What he saw made his heart lurch. A little girl, no more than 5, lay in the snow in a bright jacket. Her face was pale, her lips bluish, but she was breathing, barely, unevenly. "Hey, little one, are you okay?" he whispered, kneeling beside her. She didn't respond. Only her lashes trembled. Alex pulled off his hat, placed it gently over her head, and lifted her into his arms. She was light as air, cold as ice. Without a second thought, he rushed her to the car, cranked up the heat, and drove home. The drive took 15 minutes, 15 long, tense minutes. He kept glancing at her, swaddled now in his old jacket. She didn't speak, just shuddered, like someone caught in a nightmare. Back home, he carried her through the cramped, dim hallway that smelled faintly of dampness and medicine. He laid her carefully on the old sofa. His mother sat near the window in her wheelchair, wrapped in a thick blanket. Her legs had stopped working long ago after a fall, and over time, her personality had turned as sharp as winter wind. "Who's this guest?" she muttered. "Found her in the forest." "Barely alive," Alex answered, tugging off the girl's frozen mittens. "Put the kettle on, Mom." Ruth huffed but didn't argue. Alex fetched some warm water, brought it to the child's lips. She sipped. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Annie," she whispered. "What were you doing in the forest, Annie?" "With Daddy," she said, her voice thin. "We were playing hide and seek. He told me to hide, but he didn't come back." Alex frowned. To abandon a child in the forest? It seemed unthinkable. He decided to call the police first thing in the morning, but right now, this little girl needed warmth and food. The kitchen filled with the smell of pancakes, the one thing Alex could cook quickly. Annie, wrapped in a blanket, sat at the table devouring them with jam. Ruth watched her with narrowed eyes, fingers tapping on the armrest. "Is your mom sick?" Annie asked suddenly, glancing at Ruth. "Yes," Alex replied. "Her legs don't work." "And your dad?" "I don't know," Annie said quietly. "He says kids are just trouble. Maybe that's why he left me." Alex felt something shift inside him. He knew too well what it meant to be seen as a burden. "You're safe with us now," he said gently. "Go ahead. Eat." An hour later, Oksana, the nurse with warm eyes and a tired smile, arrived. She visited Ruth twice a week. Seeing Annie, she blinked in surprise. "Who's this?" she asked, pulling off her hat. "Found her in the forest, nearly frozen," Alex explained. "We'll tell the police in the morning. She needs warmth tonight." Oksana nodded as she listened to the tale of hide and seek. She touched Annie's forehead. "No fever. She may catch a cold, though. I'll look after her. And you, Alex, "Where are you headed?" "To the town hall. I need to find out what to do," he replied. "You can bathe her. Her clothes are soaked." "Of course," said Oksana. Annie smiled shyly. "Let's go, sweetheart. We'll make this a little spa day." Outside, Alex lit a cigarette, staring into the frozen sky. The cold clawed at his skin, but he didn't feel it. His thoughts spun around his mother. For the past year, he'd lived for her, giving up his dreams of moving away. A doctor once hinted that Ruth exaggerated her ailments just to keep him close. Doubt had begun to gnaw at him. As he walked through the snow, the cold seeped into his bones, but he barely noticed. His mind wandered to the years when life had seemed simpler, yet always tinged with sorrow. Behind the wheel, he started the engine, but didn't drive. He closed his eyes. And then the memories came, flickering like an old film on frayed reels. Ruth Ivanovna, his mother, had always been stern. Her voice had trailed behind him his entire childhood, like a shadow of reproach. When the weather was bad, when the neighbors were noisy, or when he brought home a B instead of an A, somehow he was always the problem. "You've ruined my whole life," she would hiss when he forgot to water the tomatoes or came home with scratched-up hands from hauling firewood. He was just a boy, thin, awkward, his back aching from splitting logs at dawn to make her smile, but praise never came. Only that look of tired disappointment. "You'll never have a wife, never have children. You'll die alone, Leisha. People like you are unlucky." Those words lodged in his heart like splinters, and no matter how hard he tried, he could never quite pull them out. But still he dreamed, especially at school. That's when Marina appeared, like color blooming in a gray world. He was 16 when he first truly noticed her. Marina sat at the next desk, quiet, with a long chestnut braid that spilled over her shoulder. Her eyes held the sky itself. She didn't speak much, but her soft smile made his heart beat faster. One day, gathering every ounce of courage, he caught up with her after class. The air smelled of chalk and autumn rain. He mumbled something about physics homework. She only nodded and hurried away, leaving him blushing and dizzy. That evening he told his mother, hoping, perhaps foolishly, for encouragement. She just crossed her arms and scoffed. "Who would want you, Lesha? A girl like her wouldn't even look at you. Don't embarrass yourself." Her words stung like slaps. He stopped talking. But he never stopped watching Marina during physics class, how her pencil danced across her notebook, her brow furrowing in focus. One day, the teacher caught him staring. He was scolded in front of everyone and given a failing grade. The teasing from classmates stung, but he didn't care. Later, he waited for Marina beneath the linden tree near the school gates. She emerged, wrapped in a thin scarf, and he, stumbling over his words, offered to walk her home. To his amazement, she said yes. They began walking together, first to her street, then further to the riverbank, where golden sunsets melted into the water. Marina wasn't cold or distant as he had feared. She was warm, soft-spoken. She talked about becoming a doctor, about helping people. And as he listened, something unfamiliar stirred in him. Hope. They met like this for a month. And one evening they lingered by the river too long. It had started to snow. They ducked into an old shed, the air heavy with the scent of hay and wood rot. Words grew quiet, and in the silence, their hands found each other. Their intimacy was clumsy, shy, full of innocence and wonder. He felt guilt, but more than that, joy, as if he had touched something sacred. Afterward, she was silent. She wouldn't meet his eyes. He walked her home. They said nothing. The next day, she didn't come to school, or the day after. He waited by the linden tree. He knocked at her door, but she was gone. A neighbor whispered the truth. Her mother had sent her away to stay with relatives. Too many rumors, she'd said. He came home hollow, as if the earth had disappeared beneath his feet. Ruth, upon hearing it, was triumphant. She took the girl away to keep her from you. But when Marina's mother saw him in the store, she spat the truth back. It was your mother who ruined everything with her gossip. He didn't know whom to believe. The pain of it shattered something inside him. He shouted at Ruth, screamed that she had destroyed his life. She sobbed, clutching her chest, but he couldn't stop. He had to leave. His father, a quiet man, a bus driver, looked at him with a mix of sadness and something close to pride. "Go, son," he said, handing him a stack of worn bills. "Find your life." 6 months passed. Then his father came to visit, his expression unreadable. He handed Alex a bundle of letters. "Your mother hid these. They were from Marina." Thin paper, neat handwriting. She wrote of her strict aunt, the city, of how she missed him. "I didn't want to leave you, Leisha," one letter said, "but my mom thought it was best." Alex stayed up all night reading. His heart ached. He wanted to chase her, to abandon everything. But then he heard she'd married, moved far away. 10 years vanished. His father died. Alex returned to the village, to Ruth. Her injury had left her in a wheelchair, bitter and broken. Life became routine, loveless, gray, until one day he saw Marina in the store. She'd returned to visit family. They recognized each other instantly, older, wearier, but still familiar. "Alex," she said, and in her smile, he saw the girl with the braid again. "Marina." His voice cracked. They spoke at the counter, reminiscing about their youth. Later, she came for tea. He told her about the letters. She confessed she had no children, that her husband had been cruel. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the wrong choice," she said, staring into her teacup. That night, they were together again. Not as kids, but as adults, carrying their scars. He woke alone. A note waited on the table. "Thank you, Lesha. Be happy." She was gone, but something had changed in him. For the first time he knew he deserved to live for himself. Then came the autumn day that changed everything. Ruth, stubborn as ever, tried to carry a sack of potatoes up the porch steps by herself. The rain had made the wood slick. A scream, a heavy thud, and she was on the ground clutching her leg. Alex ran to her, his heart in his throat. Her face was ashen, contorted in pain. At the hospital they confirmed it, a fractured hip, complications. The surgery was successful, but Ruth would never walk again. She became fully dependent, trapped in a wheelchair, and it seemed in her own bitterness. Alex cooked for her, bathed her, changed her linens, endured her constant complaints. "Why do you even bother?" she snapped once, pushing away a spoonful of soup. "I'll die soon anyway." His teeth clenched. Inside, he burned, but he said nothing. Oksana, the nurse, was the only light in those days. Calm, kind, persistent. "Come on, Ruth," she would say, adjusting her pillows. "You've still got grandkids to chase someday." Sometimes Ruth softened, then immediately scowled again. But to Alex, Oksana became more than a nurse. She became a reason to keep going. After her visits, they'd sip tea in the kitchen. She'd look at him with quiet understanding. "You're strong, Lesha. Just don't forget yourself." He smiled, but deep down, he didn't know how to remember himself. Then Anya came, and everything began to shift. Ruth's reaction was instant and violent. "Who is this? Get her out of here!" she screamed, trembling with rage. "You bring strangers into my house?" She grabbed a mug and hurled it to the floor. It shattered, porcelain and tension alike. Alex bit his lip, took Anya by the hand, and led her into his room, away from the storm. The girl was shaking. She clung to him. He knelt, speaking softly. "What happened, Anya?" Her eyes, wide and gray, brimmed with tears. "I get hit at home," she whispered. "Daddy, he didn't want me. He said I was a mistake." She buried her face into his shoulder, and something in Alex cracked open. He stroked her hair gently. "You are not a mistake. Do you hear me? You are wanted. You are safe here." The next day, the police found Anya's mother. They gave Alex a phone number. "Yes, I'll come get her," the woman muttered, then hung up. An hour later, someone knocked at the door. Alex opened it and froze. It was Marina, the girl from his past, now standing in the doorway, older, wearier, and terrified. "You?" he breathed. She stepped inside, eyes darting around. "I didn't know," she began, her voice cracking. "He said they were playing hide and seek. He came back without her. I looked everywhere. I didn't know where else to turn." Alex stared, stunned. "You told me you had no children." Marina looked down, twisting the edge of her coat. I didn't mean to lie, Lesha. Everything was so complicated." He wanted to be angry, but instead he looked over at Anya, curled up asleep on the couch. His daughter, gray eyes, a chin that mirrored his own from childhood. A memory struck like lightning. That night, the old shed. Could it be? "Marina," he whispered. "Is she mine?" She looked up, eyes full of tears. "Yes," she said, barely audible. "After that night, I found out a month later. My aunt forced me into silence. She said I shamed the family. Then I married someone else. He thought Anya was his, until he started noticing. She didn't look like him." Alex stood frozen, the world spinning. This little girl, abandoned in the snow, was his child. He stepped toward Marina and wrapped her in his arms. She collapsed into him, crying. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, gently brushing her hair. "I was scared," she sobbed. "I wrote to you, but my aunt took the letters. Eventually, I gave up." He stepped back and looked into her eyes. "I would never have abandoned you." His voice broke, filled with both pain and love. Then he turned to Anya, still sleeping. The little girl who had been left in a snowdrift, now safe. When she woke, she looked at him. "You won't leave me like Daddy, will you?" she asked softly. Alex shook his head, emotion choking him. "No, Anya, I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, everything inside him changed. Anger, relief, love, all wrapped up in the small, trembling hands of the girl, now nestled against his chest. A week passed since the truth had surfaced. But for Alex, it felt like an entire lifetime. Each day he looked at this little girl, his daughter, and something warm grew inside him. A quiet joy, colored by the sorrow of lost years. Marina came every evening, still shaken, still uncertain, but with a new light behind her tired eyes. They sat at the kitchen table while Anya drew at the worn wooden desk, coloring worlds from her imagination. They spoke of the past, of everything they had missed, and of what could still be built. Alex watched Marina's fingers dance along the edge of her mug, her presence familiar now, like the memory of a melody long forgotten. And then, one quiet evening, while wind howled beyond the windows and the room smelled of mint tea, he reached for her hand. "Marina, let's live together. You, me, and Anya." like a family. Her eyes welled with tears, but not the kind born of pain. These were bright, full of hope. She nodded, her voice trembling. "I want this, Lesha, more than anything." The next day, she returned with a modest suitcase and a small bundle of Anya's toys. Her husband, no longer her husband, signed the divorce papers without protest. His parting words were as cold as ice. "Take your girl, I don't want her." Those words wounded Marina deeply, but Alex was there. He held her and whispered, "We want her now. She's exactly who we need." For the first time in a long while, Marina laughed, a clear, true sound. Anya ran to her, arms wide, and squealed, "Mom, we're going to be together forever now." Marina hugged her tight, burying her tears in her daughter's hair. "Yes, sweetheart, always." Alex watched them, his throat tight, his heart full. They were a family now, not perfect, not untouched by pain, but real. And just when life seemed to settle, the past knocked once more. One morning, Marina's mother appeared at the door, a tall woman with a rigid posture and eyes sharp enough to cut. She didn't bother with a greeting. "Marina," she barked, "what do you think you're doing? You don't belong here. Lesha is not your future. Come home before it's too late." Her words sliced through the room. Marina turned pale. Alex stepped between them, calm but unyielding. "She is home," he said. "With us. Please leave." His voice carried a strength he didn't know he had. Marina's mother clenched her jaw, hurled one last curse. "You'll regret this," and slammed the door so hard it rattled the windows, but her visit had stirred something deeper. That night, Ruth broke her silence. She had watched the changes in the house from her chair, and now, as she saw Alex embrace Anya, her composure cracked. "You're selfish, Lesha," she shouted. "You've forgotten your mother. You bring strangers in here, like I'm just in the way." Her voice trembled, not just with anger, but fear. Fear of being left behind. Alex took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm not abandoning you, but I have a family now." Ruth turned away, wiped at tears she didn't want anyone to see. The next morning, she asked him quietly to take her to his late father's old cabin at the edge of town. "I don't want to be a burden anymore," she said. He drove her there, helped her settle in. She sat by the window staring out at the snowy yard, silent. He left with a heavy heart. But he knew he couldn't live only for her sadness anymore. A month passed. Then came Alex's birthday. The little house was filled with warmth. Marina baked an apple pie. Anya, with her tiny hands, drew him a crooked birthday card. They laughed, shared stories, and for the first time in years, Alex didn't feel empty. Then, a knock at the door. He opened it and froze. Ruth stood there in her old coat, leaning on a crutch. In her other hand, a bag. Her face, usually cold, had softened. Her eyes shimmered. "Happy birthday, son," she said quietly. She stepped inside. She saw Marina setting the table, Anya running to Alex with her drawing, and Alex smiling in a way she hadn't seen since he was a boy. Ruth stood leaning on her crutch, silent. Then, something in her gaze shifted. For the first time, she truly saw. This wasn't a house of strangers. This was her son's home, a real home, full of warmth. "I was wrong, Lesha," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "Forgive me." The next day she returned. In her hands was a lopsided cake, its frosting uneven but homemade. She placed it gently on the table and said, "Marina, Anya, Lesha, forgive an old woman. I want to stay. I want to be with you." Anya rushed to her, hugging her awkwardly, careful of the cane. "Grandma, you won't leave, right?" Ruth smiled. a real smile. "No, my little one, I'll stay." Alex looked at them all, at Marina, eyes glistening with joy, at Anya, laughing, at his mother, finally at peace, and he realized something. Every trial, every wound, every sleepless night had led him here, to love, to family, to the life he thought he could never have. And if this story touched you, stay with us, because in the video description, we've left something truly special for you. A powerful natural discovery, something researchers are calling the purple shell. It's not a product, it's a breakthrough, a simple, natural element that could help you burn fat even while you sleep, without strict diets or intense workouts. If you've ever felt like your body's been working against you, if you've struggled with low energy, stubborn weight, or a lost sense of self, don't miss what's in the description. It might just be the small key to the big change you've been waiting for.